Okay, now before we get into the actual function, what I wanted to go into, because I mentioned earlier in the last part in reference to the identity issues that one suffers with when they participate in this particular lifestyle. And so I want to go through some things here, and this is just through regular research. If you want, you can go online and research it yourself, and you're gonna find, you can go through a lot of different sites, and you're gonna find a lot of commonalities between everyone's research. And this is not even necessarily Christians who research this. This is just natural, just people who've been certified in these type of things for abuse and things of that nature, who examined and studied extensively the results or the effects of abuse. Now, this is not the full list because it's a lot, and I don't have a lot of time to go through all of them, but definitely do your due diligence and research it on your own. And the reason why I'm really going into this, because I think we've entered a very sad state, because we have people, and like I said, it may not be everybody, but it's a lot. I mean, honestly, in this particular nation, there's been so many abuse, especially sexually abuse. I mean, coming out of the Catholic Church, coming out of the Protestant Church, or just in the world. I mean, half of America can almost raise their hand at this point. And we're legislating the effects of someone who has undergone abuse. I mean, think about that. Traumatic abuse, starting from when they were a child, and they're getting older and they're dealing with this, trying to cope with it. They held it in elementary, they held it in middle school, they held it in high school, and they got in arguments with their peers and over their particular lifestyle or how they conducted themselves. And they went through this whole thing through their whole life. No one sought to give them help. No one really reached out to them in love. They reached out to them in hate. And so now the world at this point just say, hey, we'll reach out to them. We'll reach out and we're going to legislate something, put something in place to try to take care of them, to take care of the effects of those who have been abused. And so I just want to go through some things, because I think that's very vital to understand that we're dealing with an epidemic that's prevalent throughout our society. So let's look at these effects, and then we're going to go right back into the functions of marriage. But I think it's very important to look at this, and definitely, like I said, please look it up on your time. The first one, a preoccupation with sex. Now, you would think that someone who's undergone those type of circumstances would not even want to even think about that. But a lot of times, because they've been through that, they end up having a preoccupation with the thing that abused them. Also, promiscuous behavior. Just going out, sleeping around all types of people. Compulsive and aggressive sexual behaviors. Nowadays, a lot of times when the women used to be more reserved, but now they're coming at you like a man. They're coming at you. Telling you where they want to go, what they want to do. Aggressive behavior. I'm going to give you a few more on dysfunctional relationships. We wonder why relationships and things are not working out. Well, a lot of people are scared to really say what happened to them when they were younger. So they hold these things in, thinking that, okay, I'm going to get into this relationship and this is going to fix it. This is going to somehow cover it up. This is going to somehow make it right. But a lot of times, because they've been through that, they end up having a preoccupation with the thing that abused them. Also, promiscuous behavior. Nowadays, a lot of times when the women used to be more reserved, but now they're coming at you like a man. They're coming at you. and they suppress it and suppress it and suppress it until it begins um, to hinder the growth of their relationships. And not necessarily, I know we talk in relationships, a guy and a woman, but even, just their girlfriends or their best friends or their boyfriend, people they hang out with type of thing. And, it just hinders a lot of those type of relationships because, one, they're scared to really get close. They want to, but because of what happened and because it hasn't truly been dealt with, they can't. They also deal with self-harm, including cutting or burning. Um, they also have alcohol and drug abuse. They run away a lot from their home, from school. They stay with one family, may leave that family, um, you know, all over town, and just going different places trying to deal with this particular thing that they're dealing with on the inside. And this is one thing that really struck to me. Refuse to change clothes in front of people. Now I'm not talking about in terms of because if you're a believer, you shouldn't be just changing in front of someone you're not married to, things of that nature. But it could be a child with their parent, a young child or whatever, and maybe the parent did not know that the other parent may have done something or whatever, but they don't want to change in front of mommy or daddy or whatever, whoever was the other person that did not partake in it, because of what happened, and they're scared to speak up and say something about it. And this is another example, including their spouse. So when they get older, it affects their intimacy even with their spouse. They don't even want to reveal themselves to their own husband or wife. They have learning problems. And the biggest thing, what we're dealing with right now, is identity issues. They understand when they look in the mirror what they see. But they cannot make the connection between what they're feeling. They understand that they look like a man or look like a woman, but what's on the inside is stronger than what they can see on the outside. Now, as we know that Jesus Christ can give anyone his grace, because the Bible says his grace is sufficient to see us through. So all they have to do, like all of us had to do, whether we were murderers, whether we were fornicators, whether we committed adultery or stole or anything, we had to depend on the grace of God, even now in every day of our lives until we get the glory, to strengthen us to overcome those propensities that we've had and have today. Just to be honest. So this is a real issue, and I really wanted to go through those things because I think we're dealing with a lot of people that's been abused, and this is the way they're trying to gain acceptance from the masses, because they feel that if they can gain acceptance in society, it will help them heal. And actually, it's not. And it's actually going to make it worse. And it seems strange, and even a person that might be listening feel like, what do you mean? Everyone's accepting me. This is fine. This is great. It's not. Because one thing we know, we can never lie to ourselves. I don't care if people are applauding us, telling us we're the best thing in the world. On the inside, at night, when we put our head down, when we go to sleep, in our quiet time, when we're by ourselves and not around those people who are pumping us up, and they got the pom-poms and cheerleaders, everyone's around, we know the truth. We know the struggle. We it's still there, and we can suppress it with, the rah rah and everything else, and the fanfare. But the reality is that we're still dealing with this. So like I said, it's very prevalent. We definitely want to just keep praying, because and keep not only pray but say something. Because you got a lot of Christians just want to pray, and that's fine. And I believe prayer has its place. But after you pray, prayer is designed to prepare for what? To do something. So you just don't want to pray and then sit there and do nothing. Now sometimes God may ask you to be still, but He's not asking you to be still and know every single day and every single time you approach with a particular situation that you need to share the truth. And a lot of times we use that, as a crutch. I'm praying. Let me just pray about it. The praying is over. We already know it's in God. It's written in His Word, so we already got some answers are readily available. You don't even have to pray at all. They're already there. Now, what you may have to pray of, okay, how I'm going to carry out what's in your word, but you don't necessarily have to pray about something God has already written down in His word. So, enough on that topic. I just want to go into, let's look back at the function while we have a little bit of time. As far as the actual function of marriage, let's go back. God asked them to be fruitful, grow, increase. And we're not talking about the increase of the charismatic movement, anything like that. Totally different. Multiply. In other words, grow in number through procreation. That's another thing. One of the parts of marriage is to procreate. What? The image. See, God made them in His image, then told them, look at this. Now I made you in my image. Now reduplicate me in the earth. One of the main, which is very evident, they don't have the parts to procreate. If you don't have the parts, you can't reproduce the image. Okay? So, okay. Let's look at it this way. If you had one puzzle piece and it didn't fit the puzzle you were working on, then your assumption would be that it belonged to another puzzle. Correct? Correct. However, the world would tell us to reshape the piece to make it fit in the puzzle. In other words, go through this transformation, go through transgendering, go see the plastic surgeon, make some changes, reshape the piece, and then it will be able to fit. You see? So if that doesn't make sense, if you're dealing with just a game, then it wouldn't make sense if you're dealing with yourself, which is more important than a game. You see, because it is deliverance. God has given, there is deliverance. God is powerful, more powerful than any sin in the earth. That's why Jesus Christ died on the cross. Homosexuality was up on the cross. Fornication was on the cross. Stealing was on the cross. Lying was on the cross. All of those things were nailed to the cross so that we could live in the newness of life of Christ Jesus. Look, if a prisoner decides to stay in jail, although he or she has been set free, then the prisoner has made a conscious decision to stay in bondage, although freedom is available. So freedom is available. But you have to make that decision to accept that freedom, to stand up and walk out of those that 5 by 7 room.